Welcome to the new media show. We're back.
Doing the new media show again.
People are actually going to listen to this junk.
We do it live.
We're live right now.
We'll just do it live.
We're going live. We're going live.
We just can't get enough. The new media show.
Let's go.
Just do it live.
We're going live. We're going live. Bada bing, bada boom.
The new media show. We do it live.
Just do it live.
We're going live. We're going live. We're going live.
The new media show. I'm like Adam Curry and you're more like John C. Dvorak.
I think I am Adam Curry and you're the old curmudgeon.
We do it live. Doing the new media show again.
The new media show.
Technology.
Whew. We make it sound so special.
And it is so special. Welcome to the new
Yes.
media show.
Right. Yeah, it's great to be back with the show.
Did you see me run out of here? You know what I forgot?
What'd you forget?
Put a memory stick in the recorder.
Oh, that helped. Of course, you probably took that with you to Las Vegas over the last.
No, I
week and a
didn't.
half.
It was in
No?
the other machine from the other day editing, and I went to
Oh.
press record, and I'm like, oh,
There's no place for that to go.
Yeah, it's the backup, but you never know when you need the backup. Every good podcaster has lost at least one recording. If you don't have a backup,
That's right.
it will happen.
You can't appreciate how that feels until it actually happens to you. Right.
Because if we were not live on Facebook, but I think we were live on live stream, I said beep, and that's when I ran off to get the memory stick.
Right.
But hey, everybody, we're back, and yes, I'm back from Vegas.
Yeah. So how was the in-person conference that's so rare these days?
40%.
Wow.
Well, for exhibitors,
That's a pretty big haircut.
maybe 35. So they had expected 50,000 total,
Right.
compared to 240, and I didn't feel like 50. And they announced near the end it was about 40.
For those that don't know what we're talking about the Consumer Electronics Show
It's
in
not
Vegas. Right?
They don't call it. They only call it the CES show now. It's no longer the acronym you just said.
I know. I agree with you, but
Yeah.
that's what the acronym has meant for many years.
I know. I'm not allowed to say that. The CES show. So.
Oh, you're not allowed. Wow.
No,
Okay.
I am not. Even though I have made a mistake a few times as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and here's the thing: it was we were just about chased down everywhere we went because the media presence was much smaller, and comparatively they would have 100 broadcast groups. There was only 25, and we made up 3 of the 25 of the folks, or maybe even 4 of the 25 that were there.
Right.
And they were happy to have us, happy to see us, very accommodating.
I would think so.
Yeah,
Right?
and one of our teams couldn't come because of some COVID issues, so we basically, it was a very interesting setup, and what they did was Scott Ertz from Plug It's Live, who is the one that normally brings all the gear to the show. I quit bringing gear a few years ago. Scott stayed in Florida and ran the stream from Florida, and then Chris, who's a podcaster that's part of the team, brought gear, and we basically StreamYard into Florida, and then we switched our stuff. We had, multi-camera views, and then Marlo Anderson from Tech Ranch and also the National Day Calendar, they were on a stage. So sometimes we had a 3-way. So sometimes it was me, and I was doing 4 hours a day live, which is, it's rough. And then we'd have guests not show up or whatever. Then Marlo would come on and do a fill. On Tuesday, the show was fantastic. So it really gave us some ideas going forward. We may opt in the future to have someone remote switch it and just do remotes everywhere and go in. The tech is there now. Where
you can do that.
Where we can do it. So it was good. And we multi-streamed. I was on Facebook. I was on YouTube. I was on Twitter. We had Twitch up for Scott's audience. Was on YouTube. We multi-streamed everywhere. So it worked out well. But I did some walkthroughs just with a GoPro, and it was, massive spaces being empty. And that new West that they built specifically for CES, it was, I toured it. I did a full walkthrough in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And, I wasn't walking super fast, but just, Ford wasn't there. All the major car manufacturers were not there. There was a bunch that I had never heard of before, but
Yeah, I think there was some electric car makers there, right?
yeah, there was. There was
Yeah.
a bunch of electric car makers, the new ones, and then they had the car area where BMW had the color changing car, and all that stuff was out there. But I never made it to that location. It's still, was still a big show. So nothing in South. So those of you that know LVCC, South has an upper and lower, huge hall, so completely empty. Those are usually full to the gills.
Right.
And then Central's full to the gills. North is full to the gills. Westgate is filled to the gills. And there was never any West. And then we were at Venetian, which used to be Sands. Sands was full. Mostly foreign presence. Huge foreign presence. France, Israel, Germany, Japan. There was in the innovation area huge foreign delegations.
Wow.
They were the ones that were most desperate for coverage. As a matter of fact, some things may come from this show. I'll be able to talk about it later, but tables been turned. It wasn't like PR people were in control this time. It was. Yeah, the media folks definitely had the upper hand, but there was just big areas. So they said 2,000. There was probably 2,000 exhibitors.
Okay.
But so if you think about 2 or 3 people, maybe 4 people per booth, so figure out big booths, there's going to be more. So I would figure there was probably 10,000 exhibitors there and 30,000 attendees. And well under 500 press, so that kind of gives you an idea. Here was the telltale sign. My rental car, I booked a week in advance. I would have never been able to do that on a normal show. I'd have to book 5 months in advance. The rental car cost me $275 for a week. My hotel I rebooked because the price went down $280.
Wow.
So I rebooked my hotel room. No waiting on food lines at any venue. Could get into any restaurant we wanted to. It really, in CES, you have to book restaurants weeks in advance to eat. Or, eat at a just fast food or whatever. So, yeah, completely different show. And Vegas feels different. Vegas feels 80% in itself. No buffets. Not every restaurant in the casinos are open. Like stay on Fremont Street and the Golden Nugget, my favorite sushi place, was closed. So the casinos are running at about 80% too. But mask everywhere to the point where I'm actually this week, every time I go out, I'm like, I don't need my mask. It was, that being in a mask 15, 16 hours a day absolutely sucked donkey.
Oh,
yeah. It was bad. I mean, it was, yeah. So I think I took 20 or 30 cloth masks with me, and I came back and had to wash every one of them because it was, I had to change, because just like you're breathing hot, humid, and I had a runny nose all week. But now that I don't have a mask, no more runny nose.
Right.
The mask was giving me a runny nose.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had that happen too. I know what you mean.
So,
well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I know that we have the NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters Conference, coming up as well in Vegas. So it'll be interesting to see how things change between now and then.
Well, I think Omicron's going to peak here this month. And
yeah, I agree.
So I think that by February, March, I think things will calm down. Maybe the numbers will be up, but way, way, way different CES. But here's what I was told. They had no choice. If they had not done the show, that would have probably put them under. They had no choice but to do the show. They had to show something.
Right.
And I had companies contacting me that were virtual that wanted to be interviewed. And
Mhm.
I was a total jerk. I said, "You're not here in person. I'm not interviewing you. If I can be here, you can be here." And what it was, all the big national companies that have, how should we say it, optics,
Mhm.
they weren't there. Small companies that don't have big national optics were all there.
Mhm.
Well, what I mean by optics,
Well, larger brands, right?
yeah, the larger brands whose, I would say, more woke were not there.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess that's a kind way to say it. We're not there. But the small companies were there. They were doing deals. I saw purchase orders being written. I saw teams, the big teams from big, big, big companies. They're buying. Consumer demand is not down at all for products. So but I didn't see a lot of quote unquote innovation. I didn't see a lot of like, wow, blow me away, new stuff. I just saw one or two things,
Mhm.
and I didn't walk away with a price point this year. Usually past I could pick, the price point for the show is $2.99 or $99 or $49. But there was a lot of higher end stuff there. That was cool to look at too. But I considered it a success considering everything.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, it was good to see an in-person event go forward, but it is a little humbling to see what happened there. And I think it's fairly reflective of what we saw even at Podcast Movement, right?
Yeah.
Here many months ago. But
So here's what the telltale sign was to me is when we signed in, we were given a COVID test. And the COVID test had 2 kits in it, or 2 tests. So we were supposed to test before the first day of the show. And then they had an optional one that's because you could test at the end of the show.
mm-hmm.
So I didn't need more than 2 COVID tests, for the show.
Right.
And I took my COVID test the day before the show, came back negative, threw the thing in the trash, didn't have to show nobody. It was honor system. And the second day of the show, they sent everyone a text saying you can pick up another COVID test. Well, the whole country doesn't have COVID tests. They'd ordered so many, they had too many. So everyone got a second dual kit. So I came home with, I've got a dual kit sitting at the house that I can use at any time. So, yeah. And so far, knock on wood,
Nothing, huh?
knock on wood. We'll knock on wood for a few more days.
Well, there's lots of space between people at that event, from what I could tell from your videos.
Well, but what we did is we had a 6-foot table, and I sat at one end, and the guests sat at the other, and we wore masks during the interviews.
All right, then you had two cameras that you switched. Is that
Right,
what
and
you
then
did? Right.
well, they were at the same table, but we had good separation. Wasn't a requirement; they didn't tell us what to do. But during the show, only 2 people fist bumped, and only one person shook my hand of the entire show.
Wow.
Now that's a show where I carry the hand soap or the hand sanitizer. I carry it on my belt because it's one of those events where I've shaken 1,000 hands, literally at that event. Everyone's shaking hands. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Oh, thank you for coming.
Right.
No, not even elbow bumps. There was no touching. The one person that did was a lady. She sat down, but she says, "I'm not afraid to shake your hand," and she stuck her hand. And I didn't even have my hand out. She stuck her hand out. Of course, I shook her hand. Did the interview, then on the side did my, after she left the antibacterial, but. It was really, that was the thing that I probably took away the most is there was not even fist bumping or elbow bumping. None of that was going on whatsoever.
I just wonder if that's a permanent change.
I think for the near future, probably.
Yeah.
And business cards were back aplenty. Business
Oh, that's
cards
good
for
to know.
backup plenty because that's something easy to trade,
Right.
versus, yeah, as much. So everyone, business card, business
Mm.
card, business card.
Mm.
Business
Yeah.
cards had kind of went away. It was scan my badge. Now it was,
Right.
now here's my business card.
Yeah. I'm kind of in favor of that anyway.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It makes
Yeah.
it easier to track people because I can write on their business card.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I don't know. I guess we'll see. We had some fantastic interviews, and the live stuff was what was what it was. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever want to do 4 hours live by myself again, though. That just about that's a day's work.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to stay focused that long. I've
Yeah.
done 3 hours in one day.
And you have to,
multiple
and
times.
if you have guests coming, it's easy. But when sometimes people don't show up, and you have to just talk.
Ad lib, right?
Yep, talk.
Yeah.
You just like stick a fork in me.
Right.
But anyway,
Yeah.
back to podcasting stuff. Podcast Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's back
Hmm.
after lots of encouragement over many years. Of
Yes.
trying to bring it back.
So
Yes.
I've heard nothing. So as a Podcast Hall of Famer, I've heard nothing. So where's the nomination link and all that? So we're gonna have to have to find out what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they're getting it moving. They're gathering lists of names, so I wouldn't be surprised if you hear from the podcast movement team here soon about all that.
So who should be nominated? That's the question. Who should be who should be put in the bucket? But they've set some guidelines. I haven't read it. What are the guidelines for nominations this go around? It used to be time based.
Well, yeah, I think it's safe to say that that's been expanded, right? I think that the intent of the Hall of Fame wasn't so much time based. It was also included impact,
Right?
and
Yeah, impact.
community contribution, and all those kind of factors too. But if you wanted to go check it out, they do have a new website now, podcasthov.com. So that's podcast HOV, or no, HOF. Sorry, I said it wrong. Podcast HOF, which means Podcast Hall of Fame.com. And there is a eligibility statement in there that's part of that. All of the past inductees are also listed on the website. The brand name of the awards has changed a little bit. It's gone to Podcast Hall of Fame versus the podcasters. What was it called? The podcasters.
It was Academy of
Podcasters Hall of Fame was the original name, right? So they've changed the brand. I think there was a little bit concerned about a conflict with the name.
Do I get a new trophy?
Well, that's a good question, Todd. I would ask them if they're going to give the opportunity for us to get a different version of our trophies, right?
Yeah.
So I would think that's possible. We probably have to pay for it.
Pay for it probably.
Right.
I'm looking on the website. Where is the eligibility?
It's in the about.
About.
Right.
Okay. About. The criterion. Oh, there's a big word. For entering to Hall of Fame is a combination of mainstream popularity, being considered a great podcaster or contributor to the industry by their peers. Okay. Or excelling in the medium of podcasting, as well as having historical significance in a positive manner. Candidates should have something to offer in all three categories mentioned, or be so outstanding one or two that they deserve inclusion. To be eligible for entry into Hall of Fame, a nominee must have completed 5 years since their first involvement in the medium, but longevity should not be considered a qualification in and of itself. So wait on a second here. So you can be in 2 years and still qualify, or you have to be 5. It says must have completed 5.
Well, I think that's the preference, right? Is to have at least 5 years of significant contribution to the podcast medium. But if somebody's had a huge impact over the last 3 years, it's not like they're going to be excluded from consideration, right?
Interesting. So it used to be 10 years.
Right. That was that was the old criteria.
Old criteria. And
From
being that
back
we've been
in-
gone for a few years, they're changing that criteria. So
Yeah,
so
I think
I
that
still
there's
think
a I think there's a recognition that the medium has changed to some degree, and it's faster moving now, and that contributions are coming from lots of other areas that maybe would be excluded by having a 10-year minimum, right?
so 5 years. I still hope they maintain a minimum year qualification.
Well, it's stated in there. It's just
yeah.
it's
So
just not hard.
So
and
how many
fast.
are we going to do? It looks like they're only going to do 10.
8.
8.
8. 8
Why
is the
only
current.
8? Because we missed how many years?
Well, first of all, my understanding is that the reason for that is mainly time.
Oh,
Because it's even to present 8 is going to take over 90 minutes of a ceremony.
you can do 30 and 70 minutes if you only give them 3 minutes.
I know, I agree with you, Todd, but that may not be practical. And so when those choices are being made by Podcast Movement, right? This is their event. So this is what they did back in 2018 as well. So I believe in 2018 they only had 8 inductees back then. Too.
So 2015, which I'm included in, there was 6 of us.
Right.
And then in 2016, there were 6. In 2017, there were 5.
There were only 5?
5 in 2017. And 2018, there were 8.
Okay. So that's what they're going by is the last list of inductees.
We need a
right.
catch up. There's a lot of people that
I
deserve.
know. And that's the hardest part about this so far is that there are so many.
I can probably count 10 or 20 just on just not even really thinking about it.
I agree with you, Todd. But it's also something to think about too. That this isn't, it's the same with the Basketball Hall of Fame or the Baseball Hall of Fame. Is that you can't induct everybody in 1 year.
But
so
they
you have to
miss some
space it out.
years.
Right. Yeah. So catch up is tough unless I mean I just don't think people are going to be willing to sit for the ceremony for over 2 hours. That's going to
enough alcohol, you'll be good. You guys are paying for it, so you guys can we can drink.
There's a party after this event too. So
Well, that's okay. So the
people are gonna wanna
make
get to the party.
make the party a little shorter. So okay. I'm
No, I
riffing
get
here.
you.
I'm riffing here a little bit. So Dan and Jared, please, let's at least do 12 this year.
Right.
Let's
Well, that's
I'll
gonna be a
compromise.
2-hour event.
Great.
So just keep that in mind.
No. You keep them. You keep the speeches to 3 minutes. You keep the intro to 30 seconds. Bada-bing, bada-boom, bada-bing. And people don't take 3 minutes. They don't speak
We're
for
talking
3
about
minutes.
podcasters.
No.
here, Todd.
Okay. You just tell them, listen, you've got 3 minutes, and the introducer has a minute, so 4 minutes apiece.
Well, it's the same thing that the Webby Awards did, right? It's the what would they put the limit? It was like the 7-word acceptance speech or something like that.
Well, we're there. We're going to be there together. Time is not a factor. But
Well, as far as they're concerned, it is.
okay, only 8.
Well, think about what you did when you introduced me up to the stage and that whole process, because you've been through it from a
both sides.
a production standpoint as well.
Yeah.
And you got up on stage and you presented me.
Just about a minute was your intro, and then I
came up on stage and I was probably up there for maybe 3 minutes myself, probably.
So 5 minutes a person with switch outs of everybody. So at 8, that's still only 40 minutes.
Right.
So,
Well, there's other stuff that they want to do in here too.
well,
So
I know, but you
there's
just
the host of
you
the
tighten
events.
you
And,
tighten
right.
that up. You keep everybody bang banging.
Move it
You
along.
move
Right.
it along. There's no dilly-dallying. You have to be in a hurry. So,
Right. Right.
well, I
Right.
guess we'll see. I'd love to have some input. I thought we were supposed to have some input, but
Oh, I would just reach out to Dan and Jared.
mhm.
They'd be happy to hear from you. So
The question is, who are they taking input from right now?
I've given them some of my input.
Okay.
So, and a few others, and they've
Oh, okay.
they've come up with some names themselves, and a few other people that are kind of involved in the process too. But yeah, so that certainly is a process that needs to be expanded a little bit. And then
Uh-huh.
the host of the show is going to be Damona Hoffman, who's ironically also going to be hosting the Ambies Awards that are going to be going on the 22nd at Podcast Movement on the 22nd of March.
Sounds like that was a little bit of a wheel and deal there.
Quite honestly, it was coincidental.
Really?
So, yep, I didn't have any input on that.
Huh.
So that was all done by Dan and Jared.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
but it just so happens that she's also hosting the Ambies Awards
Right.
as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So she's a terrific podcaster. She's a comedian, and she's been podcasting for a very long time, and has a lot of friends in the podcasting community. So
All right.
it'll be good.
So I guess we'll see. I'm glad this is back.
Yep.
And glad you guys wrote the check. So.
Right. Well, I've been talking to the Podcast Movement folks for every year, trying to encourage them to bring it back, and they've been saying that they were going to for a couple of years now, and so now it's happening.
Because
so,
something, it is pretty cool.
It is.
It's pretty cool to have that trophy.
It is. I got one behind me on.
That's right. It's pretty cool to have that
counter back there.
Have that monster right there.
Right. It's a good exercise device too. You can build some bicep muscles with that.
Mine has flaked a little bit, so.
It's flaked.
Yeah, because when I shipped it in the box, it moved around a little bit, and part of the bottom of the star is gone.
Really?
So yes, so I hope I can order if nothing else, a replacement. I understand the trophy thing. Matter of fact, I'm going through trophy hell right now myself for the podcast awards.
I would think that they could probably get a better price on all the on the order if they were
have
able
a bigger,
to order more.
bigger
right?
order. Yeah.
Right. So putting that out to the past inductees might make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it would. Even if I have to turn in my old one, I'll be fine.
I don't think you would have to do that.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I think it's great news.
And Dan and Jared, if you're listening, remember, when you allow people to order multiple trophies, you can make that, you can mark them up a little bit to cover your
Don't
shipping.
give them any ideas.
No, it's true. Well, so the awards I do for podcast awards, we mark them up a little bit, not very much.
Right.
I have to, because it
takes extra time.
Yeah.
To have more of them.
Right. To process them all.
Right.
This year I'm having stuff drop shift. They're already late. So.
Right.
Huh. Okay. Well, good. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And hopefully.
Well, Todd, I'm sure that there's a lot of folks that are listening to this show that are not familiar with the history of this, right? It's been a few years now. It started back in 2015 at Podcast Movement. You were part of the first group that got brought into the Hall of Fame, and Mr. Adam Curry's in there, Leo Laporte's in there, So there's some very early creators of the podcast medium
Yeah.
that were part of that first group. And then, subsequently after that, some other very significant contributors. I'm sure you hear Dave Jackson's name out there because he's part of it as well. And so hopefully we can get.
Whoa. Rob's Skype connection just went sideways. That's Skype trying to reconnect. All right. Hang up on him. He'll be back in a second. Yeah. So, but a lot of the people that were in some of those early years, probably people don't even know who they are. But they're some of the original podcasters back from the very, very early days.
Yeah, that's right. So, I think that we could spend time going through the names of all the people that are in there already, but hopefully the ones that we add this year will take a little bit of a different approach to who those folks are and their contributions. So that's all.
Well, we've got how many? Do we have any of the? What do we want to call? What do we want to call? Do we have? I think most of the early people are already in. Did we? There's some probably that.
There's a couple of them that I mentioned anyway. That obviously need to be included that weren't in the past. So, and then there's others out there too that maybe didn't fit that early criteria of that 10-year requirement.
Yeah.
That maybe have had a more recent impact.
Hopefully, right. But hopefully we don't miss the middle group. Since we're jumping ahead so far, there is going to be people from like.
Well, it's not like if they've been podcasting for 7 years or 8 years, they're going to be excluded. So
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I hope we don't.
Right.
I hope those folks aren't left behind.
Right.
And we don't jump too far forward. That would be my concern. If the awards would have continued like they should have, even if that wouldn't have been a grand production and they'd have done it every year and got trophies, we could have, made this
like
thing.
a virtual thing or something.
Right. Because but I understand that they didn't want necessarily to do that. And by the way, my phone is ringing off the hook. Who is trying to call me? Actually, I know how to solve this on my Apple Watch. I'll go to airplane mode, and guess what? It won't ring no more. I think that you and I set the standard, though.
Now I know where you're going now.
Yes, we did. So we wore tuxedos.
Well, or pseudo tuxedos might be the better description for me.
Okay, so you had a tuxedo on. You had a bow tie.
I had a bow tie, and I had that kind of tuxedo shirt.
Right.
But my coat and my pants were not,
Okay, it looks like you're wearing a tuxedo
Exactly.
in your picture.
Exactly.
And then Rob Walsh wore a tuxedo.
Right. And a bow tie.
And a bow tie.
Right.
And I wore a tuxedo and a bow tie.
Yep.
So we're going to put the challenge out early. Don't show up in your T-shirt like Drew Dumpkus did. Okay?
There's a few others that showed up.
Dawn and Drew, I love you guys to death. But come on, Drew, you could have wore something more than a T-shirt.
Right.
And
right.
And then Elsie, elegant black dress.
Oh, I know. She was very elegant.
Yeah.
Right.
And Dan Class, he's wearing a jacket. And Lori Petrucci, she was in a nice dress.
Yeah.
So Gary Leland, though, dapper blue suit.
Right.
So, come on, and then Leo shows up virtually in a polo shirt.
Right.
Yeah, my God. Come on.
Well, I think the goal is trying to get everybody there. So I think Leo's been the only one that I think that's done a video, right?
Yeah, he was the only one that did virtual.
I mean, I think we're open to that, but in a very limited
Well,
way.
Scott Johnson from Frog Pants did virtual too.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, and Father Roderick did as well.
Got it. Okay. But I think we would prefer to have people there in person.
Yes,
Right.
of course. So,
Right.
all right. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed. Do anyone care besides you and me?
What about the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Well, I
It's-
think all of the inductees probably care.
We all
Right.
care. I
Right.
think it's important to recognize at a higher level. The Ambies are going to be an annual thing, but you guys aren't doing a Hall of Fame. It's just like the Academy Awards. It's you're going to have somebody that you're going to recognize, a top whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be like a lifetime contribution award kind of a thing. That's going to be part of that as well. But yeah, this whole Hall of Fame thing. I mean, I tried to get the Podcast Academy to take this on, but it wasn't in their charter to do this, and it clearly was something that Podcast Movement really was the one that really pioneered it, started it, and actually has done it for multiple years. So it just makes sense to keep it with them.
Yep. Well, I guess we'll see what happens here with these with the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Well, it's also going to be streamed live.
Good.
So there's going to be virtual access to this as well. So if you by chance can't make it to Podcast Movement in LA, the week of March 23rd through the 26th of this year. So it's only, was it like 70 days away?
Jeez, hard to believe it's that close.
Yeah. So you can still check it out and see what's going on there.
Tom Webster says Hall of Fame should archive some of the work by past winners. I agree. It should be in there.
Mm-hmm. So when you say archive, Tom, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm going to assume some of the show content, maybe some of the episodes or stuff from those early days. Of course, some of the stuff from the early days, I don't know if we want that to be...
I think some of that is being stored by the Wayback Machine, but
some of us still have our websites up.
No, how the Wayback Machines it captures content.
I know.
Stores it. Right.
So shows. He says shows excerpted right on the site. Have the inductees submit some audio.
Oh, okay. To be able to have it as part of their page on the website.
But I think there's a few people in here that are not actual podcasters.
Well, it's actually open to that. I don't think you have to be a on the mic podcaster.
You have to be a contributor. There's a few people that have contributed technically that I thought should be considered at some point too. But most of the people don't know about some of the technical work that some people have done in the space that have, carried the water here.
And I think that was a big consideration in the name change too, because if you think about the original name, it said the Academy of Podcasters Hall of Fame, right? Which it implied that it was only people that were podcasters. Well, the new name is Podcast Hall of Fame, which leaves open the possibility of significant contributors from people that are not necessarily on mic, right? Or a solo podcaster or something. It can be a business person that built a compelling company and has had a positive impact.
Well, they allowed that before.
Right. It just wasn't as explicit as it is now.
Right. So of course, I have no idea who owns podcasthalloffame.com.
I don't have any idea who that is either, Todd, but it likely is you.
And it will likely, now that the website is being is up, I will redirect that domain once again to.
You will?
Yeah, I will, because
Well, that's nice of you.
because
Thank
it
you.
was for years, and then the site went down, and it was going 404. So I will redirect it now back to
Okay,
that website.
that'll be good.
Yes, it will, so that someone is actually typing it in. We'll get there,
That's good. I think that's
because where's it redirecting to now? My site. That makes no sense. It's dumb.
right. Well, I mean, it was just a temporary placeholder for keeping at least what was up there. It was actually it's currently hosted on Pair right now. That's what needs to get redirected on our side, which Ellipson owns Pair Networks. So we're going to redirect that domain name over to the new domain name.
Which domain name was it before?
Well, it was just kind of like a placeholder website.
Yep.
Lipson went in and replicated the website off of the Wayback Machine.
Oh, I see what you did.
Because Podcast Movement lost the whole website.
Oh.
So all the code and all that stuff. So the Wayback Machine was able to salvage it.
I gotcha. Wow, they lost the website.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me go into Domain Manager. I'm loaded GoDaddy here while we're in there. I'll go find it and set up the redirect.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, well, I'm glad it's back. Let's keep it rolling here.
Yeah.
For the forthcoming years, and let's get people caught up. There's probably someone in our chat room that probably would be a good inductee into the Podcast Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think so.
There's a
Tom,
lot of folks, right?
So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that should be. And all right, there it is. Let me load it up, and let me go ahead and change the redirect to the new one. I got to type it in again. podcasthof.com. All right, let me go ahead and copy that URL. Let's see here. Where is the redirect? I'll find it here in a second. Well, I think that. Oh, okay. I'm trying to be upselled here. It's nothing new. Buy and sell DNS settings. Where the heck is forwarding? I'll find it. So, what else is going on in the podcast space?
Well, there's always a bunch of stuff going on. That's for sure. I saw that the New York Times bought The Athletic for about $500 million. I don't know if you saw that, which is basically a sports outlet that has a bunch of podcasts. I don't know if you saw that or not, but I thought that was interesting. That was a lot of money to pay for a content site.
Well, they got the money. They can afford it.
Right. And then Spotify, I guess, launched a clickable ad call to action. Actually, it's call to action cards. That's part of their podcast area, which is, I think that they were, from the reading that I did on it, they did recognize that when people listen to podcasts, they aren't looking at their phone. So what this does is this activates, I guess, only when a person is changing the podcast that they're listening to. So once the show is over, then the ad, and you click on a new show, right? So you're looking at the screen. That's when the display ad shows up, and then I guess within a few seconds it disappears, I guess. So,
all right,
yeah, but there is a little bit of a historical perspective on this. Lots of companies have tried this as separate startup companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to many of them over the years that have approached me and wanting to get support, and they've all failed. Plus, I also heard that Spotify closed down their Studio 4 project, which I don't know if you saw that, Todd.
Yeah,
It
I
was
did.
their original studio that they had, but it was kind of like something that kind of got neglected over time because of all the acquisitions that they did of Gimlet and Ringer and things like that. So I guess it does make sense. It's sad for the employees that got let go through all that.
But I heard it was not being managed real well, so that's part
Right.
of the reason for the change. But
Well, there wasn't a lot of hits coming out of it, right? So I think it was also, yeah. Todd, did y'all see Clubhouse is rolling out web listening to the content on Clubhouse now, and Clubhouse now supports recording, so you have that kind of capability over there. They claim to have 2.6 million downloads of the app in December, up from 1.8 million in November. So they're trying to get it out there that they are growing, but it sounds like they're making it a little more accessible by making it available on the web too. So yeah. So
and I think coming off the, I was watching the news, but coming off the holidays, I think the news has been just a little bit slow still as well. I don't think there's been a huge amount. There's a couple things that I found. Let me see if I can find it here. Got to load Slack because I have, you know what I do with Slack? I have a personal channel and I put stuff that is important in my personal channel. It's just kind of like a historical way for me to keep track of stuff. Let's see here. And a lot of you maybe think that's crazy, but you can start a Slack channel and create your own channels. You can be the only person in that Slack channel and you can organize stuff. And that's what I've actually done quite a little bit. But one thing I found interesting was that some companies are now starting to do paged RSS feeds. Are you familiar with this?
Paged RSS feeds.
It's basically it's where only a first page will load. It's basically some sort of server side stuff that.
It's a sequential.
Sequential, so that you can have 1,000 episodes in an RSS feed, but yet get the speed of loading the first page for an update, and then the apps, good apps, according to Pod News, like Podcast Addict, will now see all of the episodes. So it's called paged, and
Okay.
it's
I
something
guess that makes sense, right?
It's something we had in our roadmap a while ago, but because there was only a 300 episode limit, we never implemented paging on our feeds. But it's something I brought back up to the team. I said, "Do we want to look at this again?" But again, the problem still is: do you need 986 episodes in your feed?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the question.
So how's it triggered?
I don't know
at the listener side.
I don't. It's not. It's done technically on the coding side. It's nothing. It's transparent to the listener. It's something the app, the syndication app, will again
pull from that feed in a certain way.
Yeah.
Or maybe a little different.
And again, I don't know the technical details, but it's something that. Just, the reason it came to my radar is because it was on Pod News. I was like, huh. So I asked Angelo, I said, yeah, go look at Jira task ticket such and such. And he said, we wrote this up, 2 or 3 years ago and never brought it up in the stack from a dev priority standpoint.
Right. Yeah, I was just trying to think. I mean, if the goal is to speed up access to the latest episode, I can see a benefit there.
I think
maybe.
So, yeah. And Spotify will take everything you have, And then Apple, of course, has got a higher number now as well. Excuse me. So I thought that was just, it was just one of those
Yeah.
interesting ones.
It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I think it might be interesting. Yeah. I mean, so you basically display each episode as a separate page. And so you probably don't have to duplicate the header information in the feed.
I don't
is that
know
what you're saying?
I don't know if each episode's a different page. I don't know the technical. I don't know if it's like 300 and then the next 300 or again, I don't know I'm sure it's in the technical details of the server side stuff. Again, this is super geek. If we implemented, podcasters probably wouldn't even have a clue it had been implemented. But again, I think it could just be 2 pages. It could be the first page is the newest episode, and then the rest of the episodes is the second page. Yeah,
right?
Something to that effect. But again, we might even be talking completely out of our butt here on this because I'm not a dev.
I'm just trying to think of where the advantage might be of this. So
right.
Yeah. But I also noticed that there was some news that came out in Pod News about Facebook basically muting podcasts with music in them, which I thought was interesting. I'm not quite sure if that's a literal muting or is that basically cutting off access.
That's a good question. I don't know.
It says Facebook will edit it out, muting your show instead.
So if they find that there is a copyright issue, they're being careful.
Yeah. This is something that YouTube has been, they've been basically flagging copyright infringing content. It looks like Facebook is taking it to another level now. I would think for Facebook to do this, that would require an awful lot of intelligence in the player.
I think it's built into their system already.
Yeah, but if they're supposedly pass through, so I'm not quite sure how they're doing that unless they are caching.
Yeah, that's interesting. By the way, I have podcastupfront.com for sale. Anybody wants that one? I have that domain available.
Wow. Always pitching something there, Todd.
Well, no, what it is you're in the shower and you think about a domain name and then you add another $8.99 to your annual bill to renew these things.
I'm sure you could get podcastmute.com.
I don't have that one.
You don't have that one, okay. Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting little twist on the music copyrights issue that continues to rage on out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So see what else is I was looking at the news that came out here, I think more recently here about, I guess Google is popping up a privacy notice.
Oh yeah, that's new. So that's kind of cool that they're doing that.
It's in the privacy notice, I guess this is on Google Podcasts.
Yeah.
Is popping up saying Google Podcast does not host podcast content. When you play an episode, your IP address is shared with the host service, like Libsyn or Blueberry.
Sure.
For that podcast. So so I thought that was interesting. I'm not quite sure what triggered that. There must have been some sort of privacy.
Well, I'm sure what it was is they probably were accused of, someone said, take these shows down. I'm sure they probably got some requests by someone that went out there and found some content they didn't like, and they probably got DMCA takedown notices of, they said, Google, why is this content on your app? And please remove it. I'm right. And probably triggered that.
Well, that and there's been an ongoing debate in the online world, not just in the podcasting world, that um, that those IP addresses are considered to be personally identifiable information, right? So I think that's
Well,
probably where this comes from.
if you see, this is gonna get political here. So,
Well, no, I mean, that IP address can be mapped to a second or third party database
right,
to potentially identify who that
sure,
listener is, right?
absolutely,
Based on their
absolutely.
online activities.
Yep.
But the hosting platforms, they don't map it, or I probably shouldn't say all hosting providers, but most of the hosting providers don't map that to an individual user.
No.
But if you have a listening platform that's attached to your hosting platform, I'm pretty sure that's being done, but you probably opted into that through the terms of service if you're a listener on those platforms.
Right. But
so,
I sat through many a demo where I gave him my own IP, and the person brought up about
all sorts of stuff.
all sorts of stuff about me.
Right.
So they have the ability to use the technology now to get to a street address for a household.
Right.
On an IP level.
And they can map all sorts of data to create a very deep and personal profile of you.
Because everything you sign up for, now all these apps have these coupon apps and everything else. You go to the grocery store and all that stuff. That's all ties in
into master databases.
Into a master database that builds the profile on you that is, some are private and public sources.
Yeah. And most of the podcast hosting platforms, I can't speak for everyone, but most of them don't have those databases.
No.
And they don't share their IP addresses with those platforms that do, merge with IP addresses.
No, we don't. We don't sell, share. Matter of fact, we're GDPR compliant. So as soon as we get done processing log files, the files get anonymized. The IPs get anonymized.
Right. So, but there are some that are, trying to do some forms of attribution and trying to do
that attribution company just
retargeting, right?
Attribution company just got bought today. That was in the news today.
Which one was that?
It was the, let's see if I can find it. Maybe it was yesterday. Yeah, someone got bought yesterday.
So was it?
It was an attribution.
Announced?
Yeah, it was announced. It was in the, what was it? Maybe it wasn't by Pod News. Some attribution company got bought.
Podcast attribution company?
Yeah. Some podcast attribution company got bought. I saw it in some newsletter. I just kind of skimmed over it. Didn't think we'd be talking about it, but I don't know which one it was, but there was a podcast attribution company that got bought. One that I wasn't really familiar with. I'd heard of vaguely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By some company, I think in Canada. Let's see if I can find it. Go to the old see if I'll find it in trash can podcast attribution. Should be very early. Podcast. Okay, yeah. So here it is. Attribution provider Leads RX acquired by Unbounce. A.G. Brown remains CEO. Marketing attribution provider Leads RX used by Cumulus Media, iHeart, and other media companies and advertisers been acquired by Vancouver-based conversion intelligence platform. Unbounce terms of the transaction have not been disclosed. So, again, what was this company? A conversion intelligence platform.
Wow, that's some convoluted titling of that.
Well, it's not convoluted at all. It's exactly what they do. Conversion intelligence. So they're going to take all this attribution data from Cumulus, from iHeart, and any other media company using that, and they're going to use that to resell and to retarget you.
Yeah. Right.
So if they're buying, if this company is buying, so who's next to go? Podsites? Chartable? Are they going to get bought by this conversion intelligence platform? Podtrack? Blueberry? Who, are they going to buy? Are they going to buy, because think about the intelligence there.
Well, it's, I mean, a lot of the stuff is about vertical integration, and that's part of what we've been seeing in the podcasting space also.
Yeah.
Is to be able to have that listening platform that you can get listeners to opt in.
So they don't say whether or not Cumulus or iHeart were using this for their podcast. You would assume they were, and their targeting of advertising it's put to you on Cumulus and iHeart's apps. Because that's what they do with this. They retarget with this attribution data.
Mm-hmm.
You listen to something on iHeart and you go somewhere else, and then they retarget you. It's how Amazon does ads to you when you search for a product, and then 3 days later you're on some website and you see that product on a banner ad. It's because they are using attribution tracking to say, okay, Todd was looking for this. Let's remind him he was looking for that 3 days later when he didn't buy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. And it follows you.
Yeah, it follows you.
Quite literally.
What did you take from the comment that there's no new big hits in podcasting? You saw that article where they
Yeah.
what was your takeaway from that? That
I don't know that's I guess it depends on your definition of a big hit.
No, are they referring to a serial or?
Are they looking for I think that there's been new big podcasts that have come out since Serial, or I think that there's been shows that have emerged that have built big audiences.
But they haven't gotten national. When's the last time we've heard big national exposure on a show? We hear it internally, but
and I don't necessarily think that's bad. I think what happens with that is that pulls away attention from the hundreds of thousands of really good shows in the podcasting medium.
I agree, but at the same time, all ships rise with that type of news.
It can, but it also can detract too. I think to some degree that happened with the true crime genre. I think it sucked away a lot of attention into that genre, and then there's a large group of listeners out there that just think podcasting is about true crime now. So, that's the danger of it, right? So I don't know. I think the podcast medium is generating successful shows on a regular basis, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yep. So it's all a matter of what you consider to be a big hit.
Yep.
So, and if you're talking about, shows that are coming out of big media companies that can manufacture that PR that's needed to generate that, then that's not necessarily an organic thing anyway. Did you see the slide deck that was, I don't know if it was leaked or came out talking about Amazon Music podcasts having 55 million users and only 200,000 podcasts? Did you see that?
Mm-mm. Well, that's interesting. They've only got hold on a second. They've only got 200,000 shows in the Amazon.
So far.
How's that possible?
Maybe the inputs that they've had into their catalog haven't scaled. That would be the explanation I would come up with.
Amazon's Okay, so is it what is in okay, hang on.
I don't know this to be fact, but this is on a deck that Amazon Music Podcasts created. So it's a legitimate
I need
document, I guess.
need to go into our system. I kind of forget right now what how you submit to Amazon. I got to go look at our
Well,
dashboard and
well, you can do it through Libsyn. So
yeah.
we created a connection there that you can go into our destinations area and
Yep.
submit it over there. So it's coming out of Libsyn, but I'm not sure how widespread their partnership relationships are with hosting platforms.
Yeah, so let me go down here. Yeah, we did the same thing. Let's see here. Let me go click on
So
this.
I mean, I would imagine at the most maybe we get maybe half of the shows on Libsyn to submit to any given platform, and probably the same with you.
Yeah, so we have the integration as well,
Mm-hmm.
where you submit through the platform.
Right.
Yeah, so it's 2 clicks to get
Yeah,
submitted.
it's easy, but
It's
people
easy.
just don't go in and
But
into that section and on a regular basis.
yeah.
Right?
Or
shows that are archive shows that people aren't really paying attention to anymore.
Well, it goes back to another thing too is everyone's like, oh, they got 200,000. Well, if you look at the number of actual active shows, maybe they're being smart and only showing.
Right. I'm sure that those are all active shows, I would imagine.
Right.
Because they're the shows that cared enough to be included.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right. So yeah, that's a good selection of shows.
Yep.
If I were them, I probably wouldn't be happy with that number though. So I'd probably be happier at probably maybe double that.
Yeah. I just went over and looked at my Spotify listing, and they haven't updated my listing since October for whatever reason. Lovely.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a
That is a yeah. So let's see what else is going on, Todd.
I think we're cranking along here, and I be honest with you, I came back Sunday, and Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It felt like 3 Mondays in a row because I was catching up from last week.
Yeah,
and we're getting ready to launch a bunch of stuff, so we're kind of head down.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of thinking and a lot of work around trying to get ready for these events that are coming up.
Yeah, I'm not even thinking about events yet. I'll probably start thinking about that in February. And then scramble.
Well, I'm trying to get this show live on stage at all of the big events that are coming up. So that's kind of a big picture view of what I'm trying to do.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're working it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a pattern that we've established. And I think it's a good opportunity for us at those events, and it's a good opportunity for the podcast community to have access to something that's live.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be live streamed, and that's kind of what we're known for.
Yep.
So anyway, I don't know. I think we're kind of. I mean, there's always something to talk about, but
yeah.
there
was one thing.
How significant it is
yeah.
the question.
I wanted to bring up one thing. It was Ashley had written in.
Oh yeah.
About the programmatic going sideways, and how some podcasters are having challenges, and how some ads were run that probably shouldn't have been run on a specific show.
Right. No, that's always been the danger of programmatic.
Yep.
I agree with that.
And it was basically an ad for the TV show The Sex Lives of College Girls popped up on an American public media podcast, and it shouldn't have been approved for a children's show. So here's the thing. Why didn't that group exclude that category in their programmatic programming. Because you should be able, if you're on programmatic programming, to exclude the categories of ads that you want. That's pretty standard stuff. And that was done by Megaphone. And I'm pretty sure that Megaphone has the ability to exclude specific categories of.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of this is really, and at the end of the day, it's attention to detail on the part of the podcaster is really where the issue is here. I know, Todd, you've been complaining for years that one of the reasons why podcasters oftentimes don't get campaigns and ad campaigns is because they don't respond quickly enough, right?
Right.
So I think that also applies as you think about programmatic advertising too. I think for us to really scale programmatic to kind of merge, and I think the goal is we would like to merge host reads with programmatic somehow to be able to scale this across larger numbers of shows.
Well, we've wished.
The problem is, how can we build brand safe relationships with the brands if they don't know who the show is? They're buying, a big block of shows, right? But they don't want to spend time reviewing each podcast to make sure that they're brand safe.
But it's all in programmatic. It's all automated. Bad info in means bad info out. So
right. So how do we bring these two? If a podcaster isn't going to respond to approve,
well, they don't get approved. So here's how it has to work. When the podcaster signs up for programmatic advertising with whatever host he's with, he has to choose. He has to select. I don't want this, 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 and this. Then that goes.
But how granular is that, Todd? That's the question.
Okay. So if sex is a upper level category, I don't know, but if it is, and he doesn't want ads that involve sex, then that's first piece. The second piece is when that ad is bought, the person that does the buying has to be able to set the age appropriate level for the ad and everything else. What happened with this deal, and it probably wasn't Megaphone's fault at all, was the ad was not characterized as 18 plus or 17 plus. They didn't have the exclusion in the ad. So the person that was doing the buy did not check the block that said this is only 17 plus. So what happened is you had a children's podcast and you had that basically said no, probably said no adult content.
Right.
And then the ad came through and hadn't been classified right and got dropped in. So in that instance, maybe both the podcaster and Megaphone did everything they were supposed to do, and it was the fault of the programmatic buyer who placed the buy that didn't classify the ad. So those things are going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It says, in the case of the sex lives of college girls, the ad failed to include an age-appropriate content warning. Meanwhile, another source says issues with broad categories are pervasive beyond Spotify. They've seen a cannabis brand categorized as a herbal supplement and an ad for cellulite targeting injections under beauty. So that's true because there's only like 30 or 40 top level categories. And if you are being nefarious and buying programmatic, well, where do you put your cannabis ad? Well, you put it under health. Of course, cannabis is healthy for you. A CBD
well, you want to reach
product.
as many potential listeners as you can with that too. So, each of these parties has a goal, right?
Yeah.
And how they achieve that goal is sometimes gamed and isn't always upfront. So,
and
that's where the dangers come in.
And as the article in The Verge says, and this sums it up exactly, unfortunately, these categories are standard across the industry. They're how ad companies and podcast networks guided by the IEB label their content so everybody knows what they're buying and receiving. Clearly, they don't always work.
Yep.
So
how do we get better at that is the question.
Well, you have to go to the IEB, and we have to say to the IEB, we need to have these categories looked at and maybe expanded. Maybe there needs to be a cannabis category. Maybe there needs to be adult television programming as a category because anything goes now on TV, on cable. It's just about everything.
I mean, I think ideally, Todd, and I would hope that you would agree with this, that the podcaster gets notified when there's a new advertiser, right?
Rob, on programmatic, the test that I've been running, I've had as many as 10 different advertisers running on my show, depending on the region.
I agree.
So am I going to get it? Am I going to read all 10 emails and then opt out of one? It's already been delivered because it's time sensitive.
Well, it is very time sensitive, and that's part of the issue, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if a show wants to have control,
well,
right, then they should have the opportunity to have control, right?
Not on programmatic. That's what you sign up for. You're signing up for in programmatic. You're signing up to say, I want to exclude these categories. And if everybody's doing their job right, there won't be an issue.
Right. If the categories are clear and the brands are not trying to game the system.
Trying to game the system, it'll be clear, and you're not going to end up with a cannabis ad on whatever podcast,
a children's show.
A children's show or whatever. Right. So, again, mistakes are going to be made, and when it's a big show, well, everyone hears it and, flips out and goes into an uproar, and of course, then who's blamed? The podcaster's blamed. So,
and then they go in and they turn off programmatic, and they go back to only doing host reads where they can review the advertiser.
So, but this is not going to, I'm just going to say this here and now. We're already 17 years into this thing. The only way we're going to monetize small shows for the near future is programmatic. That's it.
I don't disagree with that.
I agree
with that.
That's it.
Yeah. I was playing around with programmatic when I was working at Spreaker, like 4 years ago. So they were kind of a pioneer at it.
So you see where my head's at. I'm playing around with it right now. And so I think 5 years ago I'd have said nope. But we're at a point now where who's changed this? Who really has changed here's who's changed the mindset. Anchor's changed the mindset of programmatic, because people went into Anchor and said, oh yeah, we'll take ads, we'll take whatever.
Well, it's also the big radio companies. This follows a little closer in alignment to what they want to do because of their radio background too, right?
Yep.
There is, the content creator in radio doesn't control what ads run in their show, usually. I mean, it's out of their control. There's separation between the creative and the advertising, right? That was established in radio a long time ago. If you want to get paid, you take the ad, right?
Yeah.
Podcasting has set a different, expectation. Host reads. The host wanted control over who they endorsed and who they didn't endorse. That kind of culture doesn't exist at least in the early days of radio.
So with programmatic, the close ties that we've traditionally had with advertisers, GoDaddy, isn't going to happen. There's not going to be a close tie. You won't even know the relationship. It'll have come and gone because
it's like affiliate programs, right? It's the same.
No,
concept.
not really. Affiliate, you can opt in and you can say who you're going to promote. Affiliates do develop a relationship. Well, you go over to CJ.com and you can sign up for affiliate deals.
Anybody can sign up for that.
Anybody. But
it's not like it's exclusive relationship between the brand and the content.
But at least if I go over to CJ.com and I pick.
Yeah, you've selected it. You've opted in.
I pick 5 or 6 affiliates and I opt in.
Right.
Then, but the difference is in programmatic. While I'm sleeping,
right,
5 different ads can run on my show,
and you're making money on that.
And I'm making money, and I have
you don't have to send proposals,
and I have
invoices
no control, control of what gets served.
Right.
So what we were doing, and what I've done with my audience is I'm saying, tell me what you heard. I'm telling my audience, send me an email, tell me the ad you heard. Because I got people listening all over the world. So tell me the ad you heard. So I'm getting reports in. Oh, I heard this ad, and I heard this ad. I heard a DNR ad. I heard this. I heard a public service, and I heard this.
Right.
And that's the only way I even really know what's running until I get the report.
Right. I mean, so Todd, is it what you're saying is that we need to get a little more granular on the categories? You think is that where we're breaking out things a little deeper, or is that adding complexity to the
No,
setup?
but good luck because those categories are for YouTube. They're for streaming audio. They're not podcast categories. These are for everybody. So in order to get additional categories added, you got to go to the IAB and say, well, we're podcast and we need some additional categories. And the rest of the space is going to go away.
Well, that's what's gonna. I guess that aspect of it is what's gonna preserve the host read.
Right. But again, your average small podcast are
Will never
not
get a
going to
host
get
read.
host reads.
Right. Or the traditional CPM based host read.
Right. So it's sorry. We've tried.
All right.
We have tried. I have no hair because of that topic alone.
Are you blaming host reads for that, Todd?
No, media buyers resulted in a lot of loss of my hair.
Oh, it's the stress of it all. Right.
No, it's trying.
Frustration.
It's pounding my head against a concrete block. Trying to
Yeah.
tell media buyers, listen, if you buy, this is a kindergartner can figure this out.
Right.
All right. They can come and buy the new media show.
Please do.
And actually, we might be. So anyway, they can come buy the new media show buy an ad on our show, and we'll give them, how many of our episodes we do a month? 4, 3, whatever. We'll give them 4 ads. All right? Let's say we're on schedule. We're going to give them 4 ads. So this audience gets to hear that ad 4 times. All right?
Right.
So we're not an Adam Carolla, but if we had 500,000 people listening to the show, 500,000 people would listen to that ad 4 times. Okay, so I'm going to charge them 2 million deliveries. Write me a check.
Right.
All right, so let's change the mindset. This show, 17,000 listeners per episode. Okay, it's not Adam Carolla's show. It's 16,000, 17,000 listeners per episode. So what do we need? We need 50 more or 100 more shows to get to that 500,000 views. All right.
Right.
So let's say I get 100 shows to get to 500,000
Right.
a week. Let's say it takes that many. And that's 100 ads a week. Non-duplicative audience.
Right.
Maybe minor duplication, but usually not.
It's probably not consequential.
Very
Right.
little.
Right.
In over 4 weeks, that ad gets put out 400 times to non-duplicative audience. What would you rather have? 4 ads from New Media Show or 400 ads across 100 shows? When I explain this, everyone goes, yes, that's great. Never see a contract. Never
They
see a
haven't got
contract.
there yet, have they, Todd? They haven't got there yet.
Never, because guess what? They're lazy. Lazy. And they don't, that comes with too much work. How am I going to do auditing on that? Well, we'll do the auditing. We're going to do audit. We're going to audit every ad for you. We're going to send you the reporting. We're going to send you the downloads every week. We're going to do all that for you. Keep you brand safe. Make sure if the advertiser screws or the podcaster screws up on the ad, we're going to go to the podcaster and say, fix it. Oh, it's too much work to put. And I have to have a special promo code for every show. And no, run the same promo code.
Right.
Run the same offer.
That's the simplest way of doing it.
Run one. And when there is duplicative audience, they say go to acmedynamite.com/podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Not acmedynamite.com/, new media show, acmedynamite.com/, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, evaluate the performance on the whole campaign. Don't kind of narrow it down.
Because they
Right.
want to cherry pick. All right.
Right.
If the campaign doesn't succeed, do not write me another RFP. Say, sayonara, we're gone. You didn't perform. Or give me some make good or whatever it takes.
Everybody wants to cherry pick, Todd. I agree with you. I
You
mean,
can't.
I hear it all the time, too.
I'm saying this to this audience. They're all shaking their heads. Yes, sounds good, Todd. Bobblehead. Yep.
Mhm.
But the media buyers can't go to their boss. This is where another thing, too. It's got a 22, 23-year-old, fresh out of college. They've got control of $1 million worth of ad revenue. They've got 2 years in that chair to not screw up. So what do? Tried and true. Their predecessor left them a package. Here's all the RFPs. Here's the 25 companies we're spending money with. We're getting performance on this. Don't screw it up. Don't screw it up. Don't screw it up. So when I come to them and say, listen, I got 500 shows. 500 who?
Right.
The media buyer says, go to my boss and say, hey, I'd like to buy advertising. Don't screw up. You got 2 years to maintain performance. Don't lose the client. Don't lose the client. Don't lose the client. Don't lose the client. So they don't.
It's safer to just go with the same list of shows.
Same shows,
Right.
same list. They don't get out of their comfort zone. This is why GoDaddy and other companies in early space, Citrix GoToMeeting, they were willing to get out of their comfort zone and do this. And then everyone got scared. And it's mind-boggling to me. I should start an agency, an actual agency. And if you're a media buyer listening to this, I bet you're shaking your head yes too, but you know that person that's in charge of that account,
They're going to play it safe.
They're going to play it safe, because if they don't play it safe, they're going to get fired. And if they get fired, they're done. Their life is ruined. They won't get another job at another agency. They have to go find a new thing of work. So they're going to play it safe.
Mm-hmm.
This, in my opinion, is why independent podcasters, small shows, are not getting deals.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Someone please email me.
I think it's a big factor. There's no question. Though I think the whole purpose of our conversation here is about programmatic.
Right. And why?
And I think that's changing that.
We'll see. Because if programmatic, here's my prediction. Programmatic's going to work very well on small shows if the person executing programmatic does just a little bit of work.
Mm-hmm.
But the logarithms have to be right, because there's no human involved. It's a computer making a buy. There isn't, here's the money put in and the computer does the buy. The individual usually very rarely does the
Mm-hmm.
person pick the shows.
Yeah, and most of the time the matching of the advertisers to the show is going to be pretty good. So sure, there's these outliers like we've been talking about that have made a problem, but I think those are going to be very unique outliers.
So
yeah.
So I had a deck. Anybody wants it, I'll send you this old deck. It's probably 7-8 years old. It's entitled The Value of Going Wide versus Narrow. And it basically, in 6 or 7 slides, outlines what I just talked about on ad repetition load,
Mm-hmm.
breadth of shows, non-duplicative audience. And I'd go into New York and Texas and Houston and San Francisco, and everyone would shake their head like a bobblehead. Those of you are watching, I'm bouncing my head like a bobblehead. And yet, crickets. I wish I had a cricket soundbite. Crickets. Because they thought it was all a great idea until it come to spending money. Or they'd come to me and say, Todd, we just want to buy one ad a month. in those shows.
Yep.
And we only want to spend this much money. And you know what? I did this. Because
There you go, Todd. Flipping
I-
off the audience again.
because I know, I want to do a 30-day trial buy. Well,
right. Oh yeah.
a
I
big
want to do a
sh-
test buy.
a big show you can run a 30-day trial on, no problem. You're running on an Adam Carolla, you can do a 30-day buy on Adam Carolla, no sweat. It'll work out well. Go ahead and run a 30-day trial on a show that has 15,000 listeners. See how that works out. It's a different audience. It's a different ramp up. It's a different get on to target.
It's a different trust building process
It's
too.
different.
Right.
It's the first 2 weeks. Okay,
Yeah.
Todd, we got a problem. This thing's not
Right.
performing. What did I tell you? I told you don't call me for 2 weeks. And by the way, when it's still performing after the ad quits in 2 weeks and in 2 months, then you can call me during that time and say thank you.
Yeah. Todd, the other thing doesn't get talked about a lot in the industry, and I don't know if I should share it, but I'm going to anyway.
Ooh.
From what I understand, these programmatic platforms are overbooked, oversold. There's more interest from ad buyers than there is inventory.
Shh.
I know. So that's driving up CPMs.
Shh. Yeah.
So there's a lot of craving right now for getting access to those smaller independent shows right now. Yeah.
Rob.
I know I wasn't supposed to share that, right, Todd?
I talked about it on this show. I think I talked about it already.
No, I know. And
Yeah, there's
and
more.
it's good news. And
Yeah, it's good news. There's more demand
Right.
than availability.
Right.
Which is driving CPMs up.
Right. Now, granted, once the inventory gets dumped into there,
It's
I
not
think
going. It's not going to change.
no,
the
I think
demand
it's
is gonna keep
continue to
going
go
up.
up.
Yep.
It's going to keep going up. So as the more inventory gets put in,
Except,
you're going to see larger campaigns. And that's,
but this inflation we're having right now in the country could
negatively impact that.
negative impact because people are struggling. People are struggling to buy groceries and pay
Was it
electricity bill.
7%? Right.
That's
in
on this.
December?
That's on stuff that they measure. Remember, they don't measure everything.
Yeah, that's the CPI, right?
Right. The CPI. It's it doesn't count the other stuff that we're all getting.
There's a lot of
hammered.
other stuff that's gone up a lot higher than 7. Right.
I don't know if I should even say this, but we have I think I can do this without getting in trouble. How much do you think Raw Voices medical coverage went up our bill to provide employees health care went up? How much do you think it went up this year?
At least 20%.
17%.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Listen to that. 17%. It went up
Right.
17%.
Year over year. Right.
Year over year. 1 year it went up 17%.
Right.
And people say, hey, well, I have to charge for podcast hosting.
Hey, Todd, have you seen the current value of your car compared to what you paid for it?
Yeah,
now?
it's more.
I've got a.
But my car's in. I
car
told you I
that's
hit.
worth more now than I bought it for.
Well, maybe not. My car. Yeah, I hit a Bambi. Did I tell you that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm supposedly it's gonna be ready tomorrow. $3,700 worth of damage.
Wow.
Yeah, and it would have been more if I hit it right in the middle. If it had been on a corner panel, it'd have been more, because the
Right.
sensors would have got took out. So I got lucky that the one major sensor got broke, but the lane centering stuff did not. So, and I will be testing that very, very well immediately when I get the car back. But yeah, my niece had a Lincoln MKZ, I think. I don't know. It was only 2 or 3 years old. She moved to New York, didn't need a vehicle. she got $8,000 more for the vehicle than she paid for it.
Right.
Used pickup trucks right now, good luck. You
Right.
know, they're crazy right now because of the chip shortage. And you go to a car. I
Yeah,
was
you can't buy a new car.
now
now.
listen to this. I was in a
Right.
Ford dealer, and there was a Corvette on the show floor. In a Ford dealership, there was a Corvette on the show floor, a used
Wow.
Corvette.
Wow. A used Corvette. They were trying to sell anything they could, right? Is that what you're trying
Exactly.
to say?
It's
Yeah.
taking trades, doing everything they can to.
Right.
I think they're going to auctions and buying cars. You know.
Yeah, I've gotten calls. We'd like to buy your Camry. You know, so I've gotten those calls over the
Yeah,
last few
but
months. Yeah.
you know, what do you go buy then? You know, if you need a vehicle, you can't buy anything. So right
Go
now,
buy a Tesla, I guess.
if you have car insurance, make sure that you have the clause replacement value. Pay
Right.
that extra premium right now, because if you don't, you're going to get ate alive if you total that vehicle. Call
Right.
your insurance company and make sure you get replacement value. You're going to pay a little more premium, but right now is the time. Right now
Right.
is the time to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I called
sense.
USAA and said, okay, I just had this thing. Am I good? And we went through my policy and I made a couple of changes. And my premium went up like $20 a month. But
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
right, we're long.
Well, I think we did it. We made it to the
We
end.
did a little slow to beginning. My power was a little bit down at the beginning of the show. I apologize. So
So was it a little less stressful in Vegas compared to normal?
ever since
Yes.
I've stopped being the coordinator and I just show up and be talent, there is no stress.
Right. Well, just fewer people and fewer smaller crowds make it
Well,
less stressful.
walking was like, usually you're like, it's like the Indy 500 trying to navigate
Yeah,
traffic.
you're battling people getting around.
Yeah,
them and-
so
yeah.
no,
Right.
not an issue whatsoever. And
Yep.
Security was pretty heavy though, compared
So
to other
you're
years.
you're planning on going to NAB, right?
Yep, yep,
You're planning on going to Podfest Orlando.
yep.
And
Oh,
obviously,
I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I don't think we've even got a exhibitor package from them yet.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a full in-person event.
But when is it?
I believe it's May.
Well, I guess
May 25th and
Well,
26th.
we have heard
I think.
we have heard nothing from the Podfest team. So
Well, I would reach out to that team.
well, usually they reach. Isn't that their job is to reach out to us? But
Should be.
yeah, you would
Right.
think. So
I would,
I'll have to cut
reach out to Chris.
have
Right.
to cut Mackenzie loose and say, okay, we haven't heard nothing from you. Do you want us to come or not? I would
Right.
assume we'll go to Podfest.
Because I've already got Chris to agree to having us on stage for the new media show.
All right. Here's the thing too. We're going to a lot of other non-podcast events.
Yeah.
So for the podcasting events that we go to,
Yeah, I would love that.
we're doing minimal people because it's
You just don't know what you're walking into.
well, and
Keeping your
ROI
costs
is
down.
important. I can be there waving the flag, but ROI is important. You don't get new podcasters in the door. It doesn't help me a lot
Right.
because I got to put new butts in the seat. We do a acquisition ratio. How many new customers did we get because of this show? And I've got a target number to hit
Right.
based on show size and how much money we spent.
Right.
You can't deliver that. Do I need to
tough.
be there?
It's tough to justify.
Right. It's one thing to be there and waving the flag saying, yeah, we're still in business, but I think people know we're still in business.
Right. Yep. All right, Todd, let's
Let's get out of here.
call it a day. Yep.
I'm Todd at blueberry.com, at Geek News on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter as well, at Rob Greenlee, and you can send me an email if you want to reach out and share your little tidbits of secrets. We'd love to hear from you. Send it to robg@lipson.com. Be great to hear from you.
And go over to newmeshow.com. Please follow or subscribe to the podcast. We want you to do that. Make sure you're on that way if you miss us. your app will tell you, oh, there's a new episode there.
Right.
Turn on notifications. Make sure you keep listening or it'll stop downloading. So we want you to be engaged, and we know many of you are because we see your comments on Twitter, on Facebook, all over the place. So
Yep.
thanks for being here. And with that, I guess we'll be back next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern live, and then the podcast will get out whenever, hopefully shortly thereafter.
Yeah. We'll probably have a guest next week. So I was hoping that we would have one today, but
Yeah, he didn't respond, did he? Should we shame him?
no. Then he'll definitely not come on.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll keep trying, and we'll find some important guests. to
By
have
the
on.
way, Rob, are you using Grecian in your beard?
Not yet.
No. So you actually have some color left, huh?
Yeah,
In
I'm
your
not
beard.
doing any coloring at all. So
Well, in your hair either?
mm-mm.
How is it that you still have color in your hair? You have not had enough stress in your life.
Is that what it is?
That's right. When you have stress,
Oh,
you
believe me, I've had a lot of stress in my life. So yeah,
All
life
right,
is not always easy on the podcasting bandwagon.
Yeah. Well, you're part of the Libsyn crew. It's there's no stress over there.
Right. Yeah, there's only like 4 companies that we acquired. So yeah,
That's your problem, not mine.
I know. That's what I mean. Right. It's hard to keep up with everything. Yeah.
All right,
Right.
everybody. We'll see you later. Take
Okay.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.